This regular meeting of the Detroit Lake City Council is called to order, and at this time I would like to invite all of you to please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting held on April 14th, 2015, and a special City Council meeting held on April 28th, 2015. Are there any members of the council or anybody in the audience that wishes to make any changes or amendments to the minutes as they are currently printed? Bruce?
Your Honor, on the minutes would be page 5.
Of the regular minutes, Bruce?
Of the April 14th minutes.
Okay.
The CDC committee had recommended that, I believe it was fact finding number 46 was to be deleted, and I don't see that anywhere in here. I want to make sure that that is noted, that item was deleted from the findings. Can anybody clarify that for me?
Yeah, I can clarify that. I haven't looked to make sure on the minutes, Bruce, but I remember that we wanted that deleted, and so you're correct.
So can we make sure that that's referenced?
Yep.
And then Your Honor, I have two clarifications, not necessarily corrections to the minutes, but two clarifications I want to. I understand for brevity's sake that a lot of the comments were edited down, and I understand that. I'm not questioning that. But the tape we had of that meeting, normally you guys circulate these tapes. I would like to request that that tape at least be permanently kept until we've made a decision as a council to delete that. If not, then I would like a copy of it, one way or the other. I need to know that that's going to be maintained.
We'll keep all tapes for 2 years.
Okay. But that tape particularly, if it's going to be beyond 2 years, could you notify me that it's going to be gone?
We can put in a record to keep it permanently.
You could delete something from the from the normal destruction schedule, but you would want to make it specific as to what you're deleting, what you're not going to be destroying.
Read the tape from the
April 14th meeting.
City Council.
That's what I'm looking for. What I'm getting at is the comments on there were much more lengthy than what's in the minutes. I understand the brevity in trying to summarize. That's not my point here. My point is I want to keep that tape in case we want to go back and reference any comments.
So, Gloria, keep the tape forever, okay?
Yep, I will put that.
Thank you.
Do you have a third thing, Bruce?
That was it.
Okay. So we're going to make sure the minutes do reflect that one item of those findings of fact is not included, correct? Mm-hmm. Any other changes, or Jamie?
It indicates that I abstained from going into closed session, but does not indicate that I requested that we speak with the DNR regarding, lakefront development, and I'd like that added in there. Okay.
Any other corrections to the minutes?
Say that again, Jamie, just so I can.
As I remember it, my suggestion was that we pursue a conversation with the DNR on how we accomplish lakefront development in that area.
As I recall, you might even
going into closed session.
Didn't you even make a motion?
Yeah, the motion's in here.
I didn't.
Didn't you?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Okay, I read that particular piece of it.
She did make a motion, the comment was that you wanted to have it tabled to have a conversation with the DNR.
So is that reflected in there?
Yes.
It is?
It is.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so-
My little skills are not good today. Okay, thank you.
It is reflected in the minutes.
I apologize.
Any other changes or additions or corrections of the minutes?
Yeah, just to clarify, Jamie, it indicates that Barb made the motion to discuss this with DNR for the discussion, and then seconded that.
And there's another comment in there too, as well as that.
All right, thank you. I don't think that was far enough.
Well, that's certainly the most discussion we've ever had in the minutes since I've been on this organization, so that's But we do need a motion and a second for approval of those two meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting held April 14th, 2015, and the special meeting held April 28th, 2015. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried. The consent agenda is before the council, and all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Again, is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to either add or delete an item on the consent agenda? Brad? Oh, Ron, go
Got
ahead.
6K and 6N to put on the regular agenda.
Say that again.
6K and 6N, N is in Nancy, yep.
6K is not on the consent agenda.
Well, we want K also to be taken off on that, too. 6K to take off the consent agenda.
It's not on it.
Well, I'm working on this other sheet here. Make it 6L then, yep.
So we want to take L,
L, yes.
just L?
Yeah, and also the, what's the N one here? It's the one that's on the project status report for John.
6-0.
6-0, yeah, 6-0.
Okay,
So 6L.
so we're going to remove L and O
Yes.
under agenda
Yeah.
segment 6.
Yes.
Anything else that anyone wants to remove or add to the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the adjustment of those two items.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. At this time, I'll adjourn the regular city council meeting and call to order a public hearing for the purpose of abatement of a nuisance created by multiple motor vehicles parked at the front and rear yard and running an automotive business in R2 zone at 1118 Wilson Avenue, Lyle and Jason Chonas. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I guess first I would call on our city staff to advise the council as to the current status of this property. Chief?
I drove by the property today. The vehicles that were in the front yard are down on the street. There were a couple of vehicles on trailers and stuff, and most of the front yard has been cleaned up nicely. There still is a vehicle in the backyard with the tarp over it. I'm not sure what's underneath the tarp. There's one of the concerns that we had is it appeared that there was they were taking in vehicles, fixing them up, repairing them, doing things to resell them or do whatever, and that's not allowed in that zone.
Any questions for the chief? Any other city staff have anything to report? Larry or Dave? Anything? Is Lyle or Jason here? Anything you want? Are you Lyle or Jason?
I'm Jason.
And I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Jonas, is it?
Jonas.
Jonas? Do you want, anything you want to add to what the chief reported?
I'm not running an automotive business in my garage. I work on some friends' vehicles here and there. Once in a while, they bring one of their friends' vehicles over. I don't work for profit. According to the IRS guidelines, it does not qualify as a business in any way. It's a hobby of mine. I work full-time as a mechanic at Charge Plus. I make my money there. I don't work for profit at home. 80% of the people that have me work on their vehicles, if I didn't, they wouldn't have a vehicle. Because I'm not in it to make the money, it's just something I like to do.
Okay,
And
so,
I make a hobby of my time working on vehicles.
okay, so chief, is it the situation, to the point where it's not in violation at this point, in your opinion, or are we not quite there, or where are we at?
When I drove by there today, I would say that were probably pretty good today, because like I said, the front yard that have the vehicle on the trailer and the vehicles that were parked in the front yard. There's 2 vehicles parked on the street in front of the house. They're both currently licensed, and, so at this time, we have no pressing need for an abatement.
Okay. So do you understand what the chief was saying, with, whatever triggered the complaint, you've straightened that around now, and so if you keep it that way, you should be all right. Is that?
was actually within, I just checked my mail and got the letter for this hearing 5 days ago. I was never notified in writing about this issue. I never got a registered mail or posted on the property or anything, so within 5 days, I made this big change on my property.
Good. Well, that's good. And it sounds like we don't need to take any action then, is that, anybody in the council have anything to add? Okay, well, thank you for taking care of the problem, and there will be no action by the council at this time. Is our new firefighter Kyle Vogt here yet? Not yet? Okay. Well, that public hearing is closed, and we will move back to the regular council agenda and the Community Development Committee, and I will turn it to Chairman Imholt.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item A, consideration of variance for a 40-foot setback from the ordinary high water mark and for a 28% impervious surface coverage to allow an 8 by 25-foot addition and second-story addition to a home at 1572 Westlake Drive. In your packet, you have the findings of fact and the conclusions that the Planning Commission went through. And they've made a recommendation, as also the Community Development Committee is making a recommendation based on the following conditions: that the project be constructed generally as shown on the site plan with a 40-foot setback from the ordinary high water mark, that the owners reduce the amount of pervious surface coverage from basically 44% to 28%, that the owners implement the following stormwater mitigation measures: install rain gutters in the home to direct stormwater away from the lake, that the owner construct a 4 to 6 inch berm across the lot between the home and the lake, and as we discussed, that needs to be close, not way back, but closer to the lake. That the owners obtain a Pelican River Watershed District permit prior to issuance of the building permit, that the owners sign a pervious surface maintenance agreement prior to issuance of a building permit. We're going to come back to that one, and that the owner complete a survey after construction. I think the survey's already been done. But Larry, can you address number 5, the pervious surface maintenance agreement? What did we find out about that?
The city does have a pervious surface maintenance agreement that we require people to sign to use pervious pavers to meet their 25% impervious surface requirements. We did have the issue raised at the Planning Commission meeting as to whether or not that was an allowable thing to do. I have been in contact with the DNR area hydrologist to get information from him regarding that issue. And at this point in time, nothing has been provided that shows that pervious pavement or pervious pavers cannot be used to meet the 25% impervious surface requirement.
Okay, thank you. So given those conditions and the information we've just received, the Community Development Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to adopt the findings and reasons for approval and approval of variance application for 1572 Westlake Drive, subject to, I'm a little slow here, 6 conditions, correct?
Correct.
Discussion on the motion.
I have a question.
Jamie?
I have a question.
Yep.
We received some letters, I think, of complaints regarding both of these requests that are on the agenda, right? Was that resolved at committee? Didn't we receive an objection to this by now?
The only objection we received was the letter from the Lake Detroiters Association.
Right, and was that resolved at all or discussed during?
And that was related to the pervious pavers. The question was, would the pervious pavers satisfy the impervious surface issue? And so that's where we had Larry go back and ask to see if we could research that.
Other questions or discussion?
Larry, when you talk to the DNR?
Yes.
What exactly did they tell you?
His comment, the comment he made was that according to a certain section in the rules, pervious pavers weren't supposed to be allowed to count, or they counted towards your impervious surface. And then he said, but you could continue to use that as a mitigation measure and still continue to grant those kinds of variances. However, in reading the section of the ordinance or the state rules regarding that, it made no mention of pervious pavement or pervious materials not counting as pervious surface. So there seems to be some disconnect between what he's telling us and what the rules actually say.
So our action is doing what? What he's telling us, or what?
Our action is granting this permit based on the owner providing the 28% impervious surface, and he is counting the pavers, the pervious pavers, as pervious surface at this point in time.
Bruce?
Yeah, I believe it's 900 feet.
900 feet.
Yeah. So if
What the
he,
DNR is saying is the 900 feet should actually count as impervious, but you could still grant the variance and use the pervious pavers that aren't really pervious as part of a mitigation measure. But the rules do not specifically state that pervious materials don't count.
So if you use the pavers as impervious, then what is the percentage?
The percentage in this case would be probably around 38% instead of 28%. He's still reducing the amount of impervious surface on his lot, but certainly not by as much.
Larry, in some of those rules about pervious versus impervious, counting pervious pavers, wasn't there language to the effect that if there was a maintenance agreement, if there were percolation limits, was there anything in there about that?
There was nothing in there about it.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if I completely got my arms around that, but
well, I was going to follow up when we were talking about this, and I asked about the 900 feet. I mean, the key thing is when you have these pervious pavers, the issue's coming up, and I think for those of you that have been out to the North Shore Landing, that would be a prime example. There's pervious pavers in there. The DNR itself has not maintained the pervious pavers. So the issue becomes a little bit is, if you have a maintenance agreement, and then it's contingent upon us as a city, our building inspector, Larry's department, to make sure that Mr. Scanlon maintains the pavers. Because if you don't maintain the pavers, yeah, they become impervious. But until somebody tells us definitely that pervious pavers don't count, then my feeling is we can do that, again, as long as we as a city are going to then enforce the maintenance agreement. That's the key.
And is the maintenance agreement part of our ordinance? Because I thought I just heard Larry say that he didn't find it in the state.
We require a maintenance agreement.
The city does?
Yes.
Okay.
One of our conditions right here.
Okay.
So again, I would tell the council, if we're not going to enforce these, then yes, we shouldn't be putting them in here.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like an agenda item suggested? Anybody? Okay, we'll just continue with Community Development Committee agenda then.
Okay, item B is consideration of resolution in the matter of setting a public hearing for the proposed vacation of public right-of-way in the blockade of the Home Second Edition. This is basically the alleyway that would be where the new hotel is going. And the Community Development Committee reviewed this. We recommend approval, and I so move. There's a resolution in your packet, resolution number 2000, resolution, I don't know if there's a number on it, but it's in your packet there.
Second it.
I so move.
Motion's been made and seconded to set a public hearing for the proposed vacation of a public right-of-way in blockade of Home Second Edition. And that public hearing would be June 9th, 2015 at 5 p.m. Further discussion, or any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, motion carries. Note that Jamie opposed, okay.
Item C, Your Honor, I'd ask that you maybe make a comment on this before I move the
Sure.
motion to the council.
Yeah, the Development Authority is got a purchase agreement for the property that's just to the north of Frazee Street, to the west of McKinley Avenue, and to the south of Holmes Street. It's kind of an irregular shaped piece of property, and this is a parcel that's been on our business quarters redevelopment plan, and we've now got a purchase agreement, and my understanding is the developer wants to put in about 20,000 square feet of new retail development on the main floor, and then there would be 3 stories of, I think, apartments, maybe condos, or the apartments. I'm not positive, but, so it's kind of an exciting deal, and the purchase price was $925,650. And Bruce, as a member of the Development Authority, do you have anything else you want to add to my comments on that?
Excuse me, the reason I wanted you to bring it up is I know that when you got elected, developing this whole space was a priority of yours, and I think it's maybe taken a little longer, but I would tell the council, we have a policy that even though this is through the Development Authority, any land that's not an industrial park, for some council members that may not be aware, we have a policy of approving, the council has to approve land sales like this. I think, again, I believe our staff and some of the members of the Development Authority have negotiated a good price, and this would be the final piece, Mayor, of putting that whole, as you said, that business corridor together. So I would move that we accept the price of $925,650.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the land sale via the Development Authority for the parcel that I referenced, and Bruce referenced, for the price of $925,650. Discussion on the motion.
I have a question.
Yep, Barb?
Has there been other businesses that have wanted to go into that property?
Well, we had some inquiries early on, Barb, and either they didn't come forward with a plan or they didn't come forward with a good price. The Development Authority, subsequent to that, went out and purchased some more land from Bremer to make that a larger piece. So again, I think, it's been advertised quite a bit. I mean, there's certainly been, people are aware of it. We've had inquiries. I'm sure if Bob or Larry wanted to address that more, they could. But I think at the end of the day, we've certainly done the due diligence as a city to let people know it's available, and I think we've gotten a good price.
And the apartments, do they know, is that going to be for elderly or?
I can speak to that.
Market
The
rate.
apartments or condos are supposedly to be market rate. They're not restricted by age in any way, so they're just market rate units. The property has been advertised in the local paper. We also sent out in 2013 a request for proposals. So the Development Authority has been looking at this for a long time, and they feel this is the best project to go on this site and the best price.
So I know Holiday Gas Station had talked about going over there. Did they not come up with a, and not that I'm opposed to this, I'm just wondering kind of what the.
They actually met with the subcommittee and presented a proposal. Subcommittee looked at their proposal versus the proposal from the developers for this project and felt that this project was more consistent with the long-range plan for that area than putting the Holiday Gas Station there, given the size of the parcel. And so it was their recommendation that this project, the subcommittee recommended bringing that forward to the Development Authority. In fact, the Development Authority did go back and did discuss with Holiday Gas Station a couple other potential locations. Just didn't feel like their proposal was as substantial in terms of the long-term benefit to the community and consistency with the plan as the proposal from the developers.
And with the 3 floors of apartments, there will be enough parking and.
Yes.
Well, I think all those details will still be, all that has to be vetted through the Planning Commission and the council yet, absolutely. that this is not a done deal. I think all we're doing here today is approving the land sale. And there's a general concept, we wanted to let this council and the public know what's coming up. But the details of the project, and are they gonna comply with parking, and you know, all the other things that go along with building, I think those are still yet to come. But certainly, I will just put a plug in that there was some of us a few years ago that would have preferred a different, we had a vision for this piece of property with a liquor store and a new city offices there, but again, now, since I was on the losing end of that, I'm here supporting this because that's my role, is to build consensus and to be happy and go along, and the mayor's gonna buy me a Jameson afterwards, so it's all good to go.
Because you're such a team player.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Great. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion is carried. And if I could just interrupt you, Bruce, or whoever's next. I see Kyle is here. We have a new firefighter that we want to swear in and welcome this evening. Kyle, would you come up and... Fire or what?
Way back from Fargo. Good, yourself?
If you would raise your right hand. I, Kyle Wolf,
I, Kyle Hall,
promise that I will humbly serve
promise that I will humbly serve
all customers with an urgent response to their crisis,
all customers with urgent response to their crisis
with compassion,
with compassion,
sincerity and concern,
sincerity and concern,
patience,
patience,
kindness, and respect.
kindness, and respect.
I promise that I will at all times
I promise that I will at all times
conduct myself in a manner
conduct myself in a manner
that reflects positively
that reflects positively
on the fire department of the city of Detroit Lakes.
on the fire department in the city of Detroit Lakes.
Finally, I promise to follow the policies of the fire department,
Finally, I promise to follow the policies of the fire department,
uphold the laws of our state and nation,
uphold the laws of our state and nation,
and the ordinances of the city of Detroit Lakes,
and the ordinances of the city of Detroit Lakes,
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Okay, you're officially in. Can you just say anything about yourself, if you're a married man or family or anything, or where you work, or?
Single, and I work at BTD.
Okay,
About it.
we're really glad to have you. Thanks, Kyle. Bruce, was there additional items on?
Well, not, just one, information item for, most of the council doesn't know this, but I had contacted the media about that. We were gonna have a meeting on May 18th, education session on shoreline ordinances, and that's been rescheduled. So I appreciate, Vicki, that you had put a piece in, and Carol had mentioned it too, so it's canceled. Yeah. Yeah. We're not gonna have it.
Okay.
Okay, very good. With that, we'll move on to the Public Works Committee. Chairman Zeman.
Okay, first item 6A, I'm going to have John Pratt that will give us a report and an update as far as repair work that is needed on Tower Road. In front of all of you, you should have a information sheet that says a matter of order and report for a set-in hearing for proposed improvements on Tower Road in front of you there. But John, will just give a little update on that? And
certainly. Well, we've had a kind of an ongoing struggle with the short segment of Tower Road since it was reconstructed in 2008, I think, 2007, 2008. And so we've done some minor corrections to that, and at this point, the road blew out again this spring. So at this point, we're looking a little deeper into the issue. We have some soil issues that are somewhat of the underlying cause of that. So there's a resolution in front of you ordering the preparation of a preliminary engineering report, where we would look at some possible options, come back with suggested solutions, costs, and things of that nature next month.
Okay.
all right. So the committee has reviewed this, and we recommend that we go ahead with this, and we'll have a set the hearing and so forth on at our June meeting. So I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Bob?
Just for the council's information, this is a little bit unusual situation. The Public Works Committee requested that we look at this as a possible assessment, so we will review that versus our current assessment policy. But typically, that when we do a reconstruction like this, we assess everybody, and In this particular case, we got a problem in one section, so we're gonna take a look at that and improve that. It's not our traditional reconstruct a street as you would normally do it.
So our motion and our action then is to go ahead and order the,
I just wanted to counsel.
yeah, well, we're gonna order the report from the city engineer, and we're gonna go ahead and set a hearing for when?
June.
The
June meeting, we can
9th
set
or
that,
whatever?
yeah.
Is that when our next meeting is?
Typically, we would set that resolution, or set that hearing
So we received the report in June, set the hearing
in June.
And
Yeah.
July, June council meeting will set the hearing date.
So are we just ordering a report now, or are we setting a hearing
Ordering
too?
the report.
Report,
Okay, so the motion and second is just to order the report.
yes.
All right. Further discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
Next item, 6B, consideration to request to purchase a pickup for the Public Works Department. The information is ahead of, is with you there, and the quotes,
Poke it harder.
yeah. I don't know what's happening here, but anyway, we looked at a number of bids that came back in, and the winning bid was from Nelson Auto Center in Fergus Falls for a GMC Sierra at $27,262. The next nearest bid was $27,527, which was another brand. The staff, they prefer the GMC brand because that's what they've been using, and this pickup is expected to last 20 years. So because of that, we've decided to go ahead and purchase a GMC Sierra for the amount of $27,262.
And you make a motion?
And I make a motion that we make that purchase.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to purchase a 2015 vehicle for the Public Works Department. It is a budgeted item, correct?
Correct, it is budgeted item.
Discussion on the motion?
I just think it's important to point out that although we're purchasing it from a state bid outside of the city limits, all of the warranty and maintenance work would be done by businesses here in town.
Be local, okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
Next item is 6C, the approval for a lease agreement between the City of Detroit Lakes and Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey Association for the 2015 Youth Hockey Program. The agreement is in your packet. The committee has reviewed this, and I so move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the lease agreement between the City of Detroit Lakes, the Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey Association Incorporated for the 2015 Summer Youth Hockey Program. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
Okay, the next item is, getting a work tip here, is the item D, which is approval of Snappy Park field use and concession stand agreement between the City of Detroit Lakes and the DLCCC. I'm going to have Brad just give us a little update about what's going on with there, and if you would, and just as far as the Snappy Field and the part as far as concessions and so forth.
Sure, this is basically the same agreement that we had with the DLCCC last year. And what they have done, last year they lost about $900 running the concession stand, running tournaments and that. They did have a liquor license to sell beer, 3-2 beer and stuff out there, and they found that that probably is not the way to go. The insurance and stuff to handle that is more than they're bringing in, so I think they're gonna just go popping water and food. And they're running 5 tournaments a year when they have the concession open. And that seems, we're gonna try it this year, see how it works, and hopefully I'll turn it around so that it's worthwhile to do that. And I know tournament times, it seems like people really buy the food and stuff, but they're not participating in necessarily adult beverages. Popping water seems to be pretty good.
Okay, thanks, Brad. The committee's reviewed this, and I recommend that we go forward with it.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to give approval to the Snappy Park field use and concession stand agreement between the City of Detroit Lakes and the Detroit Lakes Community and Cultural Center. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
Next item is E, consideration request by the Refuge to hold a Hope Fest Music Festival on June 19th and 20th, 2015 on Tara Road. The information is in your packet. I believe this year they're also going to do a little bit of camping, but they've done it out there last year. We had no problems whatsoever, and the committee's reviewed this, and I so move that we go forward with it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the request by the Refuge to hold the Hope Fest Music Festival on June 29th, or June 19th and 20th, 2015 on Tower Road, Detroit Lakes. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried.
Next item is F, consideration request submitted by Officer Philip Vaughn to hold a Special Olympics Torch Run Walk 5K at the City Beach on June 16, 2015. I believe he's done this race last year. Didn't he get Brad on this? Didn't he have that race last year, too?
Yeah, they've held before.
It'd be very similar to what he's had.
I think he said beach and not park.
Okay, park, okay.
The DLPD participates in it. They have squads that they mainly use the sidewalk from North Shore. That's been a good event. And if they do cross any street, they usually have a squad there with lights flashing. And so they're well escorted and no issues that I'm aware of at all. It works out really well.
Okay, the committee approves it, and I so recommend.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the request by Officer Philip Vaughn to hold the Special Olympics Torch Run Walk 5K at the City Park on June 16th. Discussion on the motion?
I'd
Marty?
just like to thank Officer Vaughn for putting in all the legwork to put something like this together. It's, I've participated in these events in the past, and they're a worthwhile cause.
Excellent. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried.
Next item is item G, consideration request submitted by the Lakes Area Young Life to hold a Young Life Triathlon 5K and Kids Fun Run on August 14th, 15th, 2015 at the City Beach and at the Pavilion, Westlake Drive and North Shore Drive. Information is in your packet, but the committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the request by the Lakes Area Young Life to hold a Young Life Triathlon 5K and Kids Fun Run on August 14th, 15th, 2015 at the City Beach, Pavilion, Westlake Drive, and North Shore Drive. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Next item is H, but we're actually going to remove it because Cindy Krogan and Daniel Class were going to have a wedding ceremony from the pavilion, but the JCs have the pavilion rented, but they're going to work on an agreement, and the JCs are going to allow them to have the wedding since they've got the pavilion and everything, so they'll work it out through the JCs, so we won't have to make any action on that.
The wedding's still on, though, right?
Wedding's still going strong.
I got a question.
Yep.
I guess that's not the way I understand the discussion. So are the JCs actually going to get, I think our approval, Ron, was the subject to the JCs actually getting money from it.
Brad met with them, heard from him today on it.
And I sent you the email.
Yep.
And I did talk with Alma, the presiding one of the chairs, and he did, let's see, where it is. And you have that in your e-file. I know you're behind down your email sometimes.
Don't make fun of him now.
Oh, sorry. I did talk to
Did you
Alma.
send it to my email address?
I don't know which one, but I hope you got the right one. Anyway, she does know Cindy, they work together, and I did suggest, and I put it in the email, a donation to the JCs, and they will work that out. That's what I was going to try to,
So they're going to work out something with the JC is what it is, I don't know. So they're going to work it out with them.
Don't we still have to approve this? I mean, it's on the beach in front of the pavilion. Yeah, we do.
Okay, then the committee recommends, and I so move then.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded then to allow Cindy and Dan to get married on the beach in front of the pavilion, and they'll work out any use of the pavilion with the JCs, which would be outside the scope of what we're approving here.
Correct. Correct.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Bruce is opposed. Motion
Okay.
carries.
All right. Next item is item I. It's for information only, but the city's received a thank you letter from the Boys and Girls Club for us helping them with their 19th annual Polar Fest Plunge fundraiser. They had a successful polar plunge, and they just want to thank us for all the work that the city staff and so forth as far as making that possible for them. So it's just for our information only. Next item is on J. The council for information, the city's received $12,906.09 from the Detroit Lakes Area Community Foundation in payment for a grant award for summer recreation program, and it's for equipment for the kids. And it's for information only, but do we usually send out letters thanking the foundation for these large-size funds like this? I'm thinking we probably should send them a letter, and $12,906 is pretty nice that they're giving to the kids for equipment, so if we could send them maybe a thank you. And that's just for information, no action needed there. Next item is for information too. It's Mike Humbeck, a street and park maintenance employee, has decided to retire on June 30th, 2015 after 36 years of service, and I'm sure we're going to have a retirement party, and there'll be more information coming out on that for him then. So it's just for information to let you know that June 30th will be here before we know it, and he's going to be retiring. The next item is in front of you. It's the parade permit application. And this has changed since yesterday. I'm going to have Brad to go ahead and explain what happened there with the VFW Memorial Day Parade. We're moving along pretty quick with our street work, so Brad, what can you tell us on that?
We found out today during our construction meeting that the construction of Washington is progressing very nicely, and John will probably update that they're going to move ahead and probably start carrying demoing. There will be demoing next week ahead of Memorial Day in South Washington. And when they do that, they're disrupting the parade route. So we're suggesting, I talked to Dave Colwell and getting hold of the right people, that the parade, right now, they tentatively going to start in the mall parking lot anyway, so they will cross Washington Avenue, go down Lake Street to Frazee. But the parade route will now go from the mall parking lot down Lake Street to Willow Street, and then back to Washington to finish up at the band shell and pavilion and
okay.
So it's just a slight change, but everything's working out fine.
Okay, so the committee approves this change, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to issue a parade permit for the Memorial Day Parade on May 25th, and it'll be rerouted per Brad's route Brad mentioned. Yeah. Okay. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay, the next item we're going to have.
Sorry.
Could I just make a suggestion? Would the council consider just authorizing Brad and Tim to have the flexibility to reroute some of these events based on what's going on with this construction? Because we approve a permit, and sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 weeks, and things change, and so that would give us the flexibility without having to try and get back to the council on those items.
Well, with the crew that we have right now working, and they're moving so fast that we don't know what's going to happen in 2 hours later. So I think we should give them a flexibility to make this changes when they have to on it.
Second.
And that would be for the duration of this construction
project,
season,
yes.
is that correct?
And I would say that would be both for the downtown area, north and south part, and also for the part going out on 59 for both of those areas as things come along and need changes on it.
Yeah, and if it's anything major, of course, we want to get it out to the press, so, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, thanks,
further
Bob.
discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
Okay, and the last item I'm going to have is item O there. I'm going to have John Pratt give us an update on what's happening with these projects, because as I said, they are moving along real fast.
They are. Lots going on right now. Maybe just a quick note on a couple of the lesser-known projects. Upper Sucker Creek project out at the Upper Sucker Creek Preserve. That's pretty well wrapped up. We're processing final payment right now. Just one minor item to finish up out there. I think that project turned out very well. If you haven't been out there, it's kind of a neat walk. Don't forget about Dan Street and Peter Street. Those have been kind of hanging out there for a while. We're basically ready to take those to the council and go to bids, but we're holding off right now pending what we determine on Tower Road. If we do something with Tower Road, it would make sense financially to roll those together and get some better prices. So we'll continue to just hold off on those. We do have some work on a contract from last year yet that was sort of preemptive work to the 10 and 59 project with some water main left to go around the west side of the airport. We've been working through a permitting process with the FAA on that. I'm hoping in the next week or two, we get a green light to proceed with that work, and we'll finish up those lift stations. The 10 and 59 project, everybody is well aware that's underway. Up to this point and for about the next week to week and a half, it's a lot of preparatory work, stockpiling material, working on building out widening areas where they're going to shift traffic, crossover areas on Highway 10 so that they can shift traffic to one side or the other at different stages of the project. So a lot of prep work going on right now. They're talking about switching the traffic on Highway 10 either right before Memorial Day weekend or right after, depending on how the work progresses. So that'll obviously cause some impact to traffic and things like that. It's going to last the duration of the summer for the most part. Yes.
Can I just ask, John, is that scheduled to be completed though in this construction season, or?
The bulk of the work will be completed in this construction season. Kind of the controlling factor is the bridge on Highway 59. That's going to take the longest time. By the later part of the summer, the Highway 10 work should be getting wrapped up and things like that. There will be some carryover work to next year in a couple areas where we're constructing these frontage roads and Holmes Street extension over swampy areas. We may hold off surfacing those until next year, depending on how they react.
Okay.
So that's 10 and 59, and then of course Washington Avenue is moving right along. No complaints in terms of progress from the contractor. By the end of the week, we should be done with underground utility work, sewer, water services, and things like that in the downtown phase of the project. They'll be starting street grading and things like that. With that said, we're now making the leap into phase 2. As of this morning, it was going to be mid-late next week. As of about an hour ago, that slid up. We're looking at Tuesday morning, actually starting to close and put traffic control up on the segment from Willow to Frazee. And that'll be a little different from the standpoint that there will be local access to those homes and businesses in there, with the exception of the immediate work area that they'll have barricaded. So that work's going to get underway here shortly, and looking at starting paving in the downtown area towards the end of the month and into June. So we're on track, if not ahead of track here right now. So,
Any questions for John?
John, will we be able to get a hold of the people that are on that south side so they could come to that meeting that they're having at the mall and to let them inform what's going to happen with parking and where they can park and so forth?
generally speaking, a lot of them are on the email list that we've been sending out once or twice a week, a note to this group. There's probably 100 recipients at this point, so a lot of them have been in the loop. Not a lot of them have been attending meetings at this point, but I think that'll obviously pick up. So before we make that jump, the contractor will be notifying people down there. We're going to move a message board that MnDOT was gracious enough to loan to the city, and we'll move that down there probably tomorrow to start letting people know what's happening.
Bruce, did you have a question?
Well, I'm going to circle back to thank you for the update, but I'm going to circle back to the first item we talked about, Upper Sucker Creek. And just for council information, public information, we did this project, and this reflects well on our city because we had the State Isaac Walton League here a couple weeks ago, their state convention up at Maple Log. We had people tour that. Very impressive for people to know that that type of facility is this close within our city limits, or within our city limits. And then I know, just talking to Cleone from the chamber, the fact that the birding festival's going on this weekend, and that's another area they're staging out of, and they're just excited to, they don't have to get up so early now to go watch birds because it's really pretty close. So it's a good project.
No, it turned out well.
One more question, John. I know when we did the bids and stuff, we took that alley out of the 900 block behind there.
Mm-hmm.
I drove through that. It's pretty tough shape.
There's a small car and a couple of things.
Is there anything on the radar for getting that redone at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we pulled that out, the discussion, as I recall, was, we weren't going to push that out too terribly far. I mean, we more or less pulled it out for budgetary reasons during the first go-around. I suppose in hindsight, we got real good numbers this spring, then we could have thrown that back in, so to speak. But, at the council's discretion, we can do that.
Why don't we make a note to, talk about it later this
think
year.
it's
Could that be something that could be put in with the Dan Street and Peter Street and Tower Road?
I would suggest it, I guess.
Okay.
It is a little bit different type
All
of
right.
work. We'll end up with a concrete surface there, so
Okay.
I don't really see any
All right.
big savings there.
We'll just get it on the next
Yeah.
next month's agenda.
Part of our budget process and updating our capital.
It's in our CIP, and it would be good to maybe join that up with some of those sites. Some of those side streets are gonna need to be looked at in the near term, so.
Any other questions for John? And we don't need any approval of that, right, Ron? It's
No,
just a-
no, just information.
Anything else on the Public Works Committee?
None, Your Honor.
Okay, then we're gonna go down to the Finance Committee. Jamie?
Okay, item A is just an informational item on the Becker County Museum. Amy Degerstrom did meet with us as well as a board member and talked about their plans for constructing a new museum and also discussing their financing plan, fundraising plans with us. I think at this time there's no action, but we do expect to have them back.
Okay.
Item B is consideration to the request for a donation for the 2016 Grad Bash event. The utility fund is already donating $100, and the request to us is for $150 from the good fund, and the committee recommends approval.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a donation to the 2015 Grad Bash event in the amount of $100 from the utility fund and $150 from the liquor fund. Is that correct? Right? Okay. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Anything else, Jamie?
No.
Public Safety Committee. Marty, anything on there you'd like to?
We have an additional item to the agenda. In your packet, or it was attached today, is an amending section 802.04 of the city code, restricting trailers that are unattached to vehicles and parking in the street. It does allow for construction vehicles being exempt from this, but essentially, you can no longer park a trailer unattached to a vehicle on a city street for more than 48 hours in a 7-day period. And it does not allow for you to move the trailer a couple of feet, and it does need to be taken off of the city street. But we discussed it at length and recommend the first reading.
Okay, so this is a first reading.
Yes.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to give first reading to an ordinance amending section 802.04 of the city code, limiting parking of motorized and non-motorized recreational vehicles and trailers on city streets and residential districts. Discussion on the motion. Bruce?
Well, my only concern is, when we talked about this, is, so we're doing this for safety purposes as part of the reading I get here out of the ordinance, which is fine. But I mean, I would just tell you, I've made the comment that those construction trailers can be as dangerous or more so than somebody's boat trailer out in the, out on the street. So I guess we're exempting them right now, and I suppose that's because we want to make sure that contractors can do their job. But I guess I'd say if we're going to do this, I'm asking the staff that falls to our police department to be aware of that, because I mean, I can tell you that I've probably had more safety issues with construction trailers than I have with boat trailers that have been trying to bike around.
I think the exemption requires them to have an instruction permit right away. Section of ordinances.
If there is anything that Brad or Chief have concerns with, this is first reading, we'll have a second reading, so we could amend it, but anyway. Further, other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion's carried.
Just some general items. The fire department is in need of 4 firefighters yet. They're currently accepting applications, and they had their first round of testing yesterday, tested 6. And they responded to 20 calls for service last month. The police department responded to 934 incidents last month. They're also in the process of testing for an eligibility list. They do not have any current openings, but would like to have a list for future openings, possible future openings.
So Marty, we need 4 firefighters. What about the 6 that we're doing the testing? Would that fill those 4 spots now?
In essence, if
Or
we
is
were able to
or
get
is it
4.
4 more beyond the 6?
Oh, we're not done interviewing yet.
Okay.
Looking for, they're in the interview stage right now. We haven't chosen any of the 6.
But you've got some applicants that potentially would fill the shortage, right?
We'll know in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And you're always encouraging more applicants for future openings as well.
Okay. Anything else, Marty?
No, sir.
Anything on the liquor gambling control, Dan?
Yes, we have something, Your Honor.
All right.
Sorry, it's not a beer. We have some business. For your consideration, we've been asked to issue a noise variance permit for Zorbas of Detroit Lakes Incorporated to exceed the city's noise limits on the following dates: May 22nd, 23rd, 29th, 30th, June 5th, 6th, 12th, 13th, 19th, 20th, 26th, and 27th, August 1st, 7th, 8th, 14th, 15th, 21st, 22nd, 28th, 29th, and September 4th and 5th. Basically, Fridays and Saturdays in between Memorial Day and Labor Day, except for July. So the Liquor and Gambling Control Committee reviewed this request, recommended approval of it, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to issue a noise variance permit submitted by Zorbas on the dates that Dan mentioned. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Anything else, Dan?
Want to mention that liquor store sales are up again, 7% through the first 4 months of the year, and 7.4% in April over the previous April, and we're also exceeding all the Aprils back to 2011. So we're doing good there,
Good to
too.
know.
Good job, Randy and staff.
Thanks,
That's all I
Dan.
have.
Okay. Bruce, is there anything from the Public Utilities Commission that you wish to bring before the council this evening?
No action items, Your Honor, but I'd asked Vernell Roberts. Vernell, you want to just mention about the award that Mitch got to the council?
Yes, last week at the Missouri River annual meeting, Missouri River presented with Mitch with a Community Leader Award for his 9 years of service on the commission, and what he did for legislative activities over the 9 years, going to Washington, D.C. and the state capitol and everything else. Mitch greatly appreciated that.
Super. Good to hear. Thank you. Okay, we've got some administrative items, or an item anyway. We need to consider a resolution in the matter of adopting the practice of using an electronic record system for the city of Detroit Lakes. Bob, will you just explain what we're going to be considering here?
Amy.
Amy, do you want to explain what we're...
charge of this whole process.
Surprise. Come to the podium.
We went through and Laserfiche is the document imaging system that was chosen and approved by the council. And now we're in the process of starting that up. So instead of having the paper files, we're gonna have it all scanned electronically. And then you have to have the resolution for you guys to adopt for us to have our legal records are now, our permanent records are within that document imaging system.
So does that go up in the cloud or whatever they call it?
No, it'll be hosted here on site, so it's within our.
So, I mean, there's not a chance we could lose those records, right?
We have backup, I believe there's 3 places within town here, we have backup.
Oh,
in general
okay.
For the city.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution adopting the practice of using an electronic record system for the city of Detroit Lakes. Discussion on the motion?
Just for the council's information, Gloria's been really involved in this too. She's technically the person that has to keep all of these records, so she's researched it through the League of Minnesota Cities.
Everywhere.
Good stuff. Okay, thank you. Did we vote?
No.
No.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Any other administrative things, Bob, Glory? Anybody? Okay. I'm going to proclaim May.
Charlie has.
Oh, yeah, I was going to get to that. I'll just a minute. I'm going to proclaim May of 2015 as Poppy Month. Also, the term of Scott Melhoff in the Tourism Board has expired, and I would recommend Doug Anselman, the general manager of the Holiday Inn on the lake, be appointed to fill out, to replace Scott on the Tourism Board.
So moved.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded approving Doug Anselman to the Tourism Board. Discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Because of the resignation of Dave Auney, I've asked Ron Zeman to assume his position on the Finance Committee, and I've asked Dan Winter to assume his position on the Community Development Committee. And when we get a new person appointed to the council, we can readjust the committees from there with the new council person. The Detroit Lakes Police Department is going to be hosting Coffee with a Cop, and I think they've already had 2 of those, right? And there's another one tomorrow morning, right, Chief? Okay. Tomorrow morning, 11:30 at Essentia Health, and then May 19th at 9 a.m. at Arvig Communications. Park Fest is Thursday, May 14th, which is this Thursday. I think it begins at, I guess I don't know.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock? And the exciting part of the fest will be when I give a welcome at 5:30, so you want to make sure you're there for that. But it's a really fun event, and I would encourage people to come out and get to know their new neighbors and welcome spring and summer and have some fun. We have a resolution, and I think it was passed out before the meeting, and I think, does all the council have this resolution? Did you draft this resolution, Bob? Well, Charlie drafted it?
I did.
Will you just hit the highlights? I know you have not had a lot of time to study some things, but...
In other words, you don't want me to read through the whole thing?
No, I don't, but...
Let me just give a little precursor to this. As I believe the council knows, the city staff and the developer of the hotel project and the DNR have been engaged in some telephone conferences over the past week. The first one of those occurred last Wednesday between the mayor and the commissioner of the Department of Natural Resources, and there were some follow-up conversations with staff and the developer and some staff from the DNR, the last of which occurred this morning. The reason that this resolution is coming out to you in paper and also relatively late is that as a result of the conversations this morning, there is at least potentially a tentative agreement to resolve the dispute with the Department of Natural Resources. One of the prerequisites for that agreement is the request of the Department of Natural Resources that the City Council pass a resolution authorizing members of the staff to engage in discussions with the Department of Natural Resources regarding possible updates to the city's shoreland ordinance. And the resolution in front of you is drafted to fulfill that prerequisite. You would note that it basically is it is intended to foster an agreement between the city, the DNR, and the developer. The developer is being asked to do some things which may alter the project to some degree, although Larry can tell you, I think in more detail, I don't believe those alterations would require alterations to our permits. Is that correct?
They would not.
Right. And so the city's part of this is merely a resolution to agree to have a discussion with the DNR about possible changes to the DNR or to our shoreline ordinance. And the exchange is that the DNR would then agree to refrain from any litigation which they've threatened against the city. So the substance of this resolution is found primarily in paragraphs 5 and 6, and then the actual resolution. And basically, it is what I said, in order to facilitate implementation of a tentative agreement and to avoid the threat of litigation, the DNR has requested that the city adopt a resolution authorizing city staff to meet with the DNR to discuss possible updates to the city's shoreline ordinance with the objective of providing more flexibility for certain development areas while maintaining consistency with statewide rules and objectives. That's primarily the DNR's language. In exchange for that, they would agree to refrain from litigation against both the city and the developer. So the resolution would be it resolved that, provided the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources agrees to refrain from litigation and other legal action regarding the April 14th conditional use permit and preliminary development plan adopted by the city in resolution 20150414 and the April 28th 2015 change of zone adopted by the city in ordinance 387. The City Council of the City of Detroit Lakes does hereby authorize city staff to meet with the Department of Natural Resources to discuss possible updates to the city's shoreline ordinance with the objective of providing more flexibility for certain development areas while maintaining consistency with statewide rules and objectives. And it's our request, I believe staff's request, that the council consider passing this resolution.
Thank you, Charlie. Should we get a motion on the table, and then I'll open it up for discussion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the resolution as outlined by our city attorney regarding the matter of the DNR, the hotel project, and et cetera. So with that, I would open it up for discussion or questions.
So let me see if I understand this.
Okay.
We're passing a motion that we're going to have a meeting?
I don't understand, if they've already been talking with staff, why do we have to have a motion or a resolution for them to talk with staff? And how is that going to guarantee that they don't pursue litigation against us? That's not clicking in my head.
Yeah, it's I would acknowledge it's a little hard to grasp. I had somewhat of the same problems myself in figuring out what it is the DNR was really asking for. I mean, obviously, we've been engaged in the discussions already. And why would we need a resolution to say that we're going to engage in further discussions? The short answer to that question is because the DNR wants it, okay? And so whether it makes particular sense to pass a resolution saying that we're going to continue to do what we're doing with you would be a debatable point. The difference is this, though, is that what we're talking about here is that the city wants, or the DNR is requesting basically a good faith move on behalf of the city. And authorization from the council for that good faith move, which is to say, yes, we will talk to you about changes to the ordinance. You're not committing to making changes to the ordinance because the whole purpose of these meetings is to discuss possible changes, whatever they might be. Obviously, if there are changes that are going to be recommended, that would have to come back to you for those changes.
Which staff is it that they want to talk to that they haven't talked with already? I guess to me, it seems really suspicious. I don't understand it. I don't see what the difference is from what we've already been doing.
I think, Barb, that the concern is on the part of DNR is that they're afraid that the city's going to say that we'll engage in these discussions and they approve this project and then we don't follow through. And so they want some assurance that the council's committed to going ahead and holding those discussions. Obviously nobody can commit to any particular changes or any particular modifications to any of our existing ordinances until they're brought back for the council to review and understand what the changes are. But in our initial conversation, the Commissioner Landwehr was real clear that he would like to have the ordinance discussed as a separate item from dealing with the issue of the hotel and the permits related there. And I think all this is reassure them that the council's okay with that and that you in fact are aware of it.
But this seems like it puts it together. Reading number 6, or whichever number that is, it seems like it lumps it all together.
People, I think some people on the commissioner's staff would like to link that, what the commissioner stated, and the mayor asked him pretty directly, I hope you know that, he sees these as two separate issues, one current, one in the future.
This seems like it's together, I don't think.
I would look at this as a confidence building. In any disagreement or dispute, there's always a question of everybody's good faith and where everybody's
I guess
approaching
I
this in the right way. And their request for this resolution, I think, is exactly what Bob said, which is they're asking for not just the staff's commitment, but the council's commitment to engage in these negotiations as a means of showing our good faith and willingness to do that.
Jamie, did you have a question yet, or was it answered?
Just a comment and a question.
Okay.
I'm all in favor of discussions with the DNR. This just was placed in front of us as we sat down. Can we just have a minute? I'd appreciate a minute
Sure.
just to read through it. Thank you. So we know what we're voting on.
Well, and so while she's reading through it, I mean, my comment here, and I'm hoping what Bob said is what's going to happen here. Number one, I'd like city council to be notified when these meetings are, so if anyone from the council wants to attend these meetings, they can. I'd appreciate that. Larry, please. Okay. Larry, yes?
Yes.
He said yes. I'm the one looking for you to say yes. And then the second thing is, so any changes that happen, they will come through our normal committee process, like community development?
Yes, they have.
Okay, all right, so we're clear on that.
There.
Should we let everybody read through first without talking, and then I'll go back to you, Ron.
All right.
How we doing, guys? We good to go? Ron, did you have a comment you
Well,
wanted to make?
I just had a comment that I thought we've been doing well as far as working well with the watershed district and the DNR already, but I guess my concern is by signing this, is this going to obligate us on things down the road, 2 to 5 years from now, some projects? Does this change the way we do business today than what we're going to do 5 years from now by signing this? I guess that's what I'm kind of wondering.
I don't think by signing this that we're obligating ourselves to do anything. We are obligating, other than we are obligated to sit down and have a meaningful discussion with DNR to see if we can come up with some things. The commissioner indicated in our conversation that there are ways to provide more flexibility in certain situations if we do some other things to compensate for that, which may offer us more opportunity than what we have right now and still allow them to obtain their objectives. So I think, if we make a good faith effort to try and do that, it's in everybody's best interest.
Yeah, Ron, I think
We're not obligated, Ron.
I think the good will come of it, so I think we ought to do it, and
I'd like to be more informed, more often. I mean, having this given to us while the meeting was starting and trying to process it and not knowing what the background is and what you guys have discussed. I think we've had one email that you guys spoke last Wednesday, and after that there's been no updates. I guess I don't understand what all the background has been.
The request came for you to look at this resolution was actually made that Larry and I had a conversation with them and the DNR and the developer at 11 o'clock. We got done about 12, a little after 12. So the DNR brought this request up during that conversation. We tried to get that out to Charlie to take a look at because of the threatened litigation and stuff, and that's why the resolution came. Separately, just to bring you up to speed and everybody else, we've talked with the DNR about some different things that can be done. The two concerns that we've discussed with them relate to the vegetative plan, and DNR had some specific types of plants, primarily native vegetation type plants that would go in, some trees, all of which is consistent with our landscaping requirements. So we just wanted the developer to look at that. He's indicated a willingness to do that. Also looking at the open space issue, and we're looking at different types of systems which would allow more open space and more pervious surface, in terms of pervious surface, so the water would drain through it, and still allow the area to be used for parking. And the developer has indicated a willingness to take a look at that. So that's kind of been the substance of what we discussed. And that the next things that need to happen is we were asked to have you consider this resolution. The developer has looked at some products and we looked at some types of things, but there needs to be a landscaping plan, there needs to be some information from the developers and his engineers regarding how they could modify the green space and use this new system to meet both the parking and the open space requirements. And so DNR at least has indicated that, conceptually that would be something that they would look at. But they need to see the details on it as does everybody else. So that's kind of the substance of where things are at. And I apologize, we just have not had much time to get a report back to you.
Bruce? Marvin, that's why, within the flexibility, if you got some flexibility at work, why I asked Bob and Larry to notify us when they're having these meetings with the DNR, and if you can get away and sit in on part of that, then that's a way for all of us as council members to maybe understand a little bit of what their concerns are.
But if you can't get away, it would be nice to get an email.
well, this is a little unusual to have this all happen this quickly before the council, so normally we get more time to digest things. But in the interest of not adversely affecting the developer's progress, I think it's our responsibility that we should take care of this tonight, so. Further discussion. We do have a motion and a second, right?
Yes.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries. Is there anything else that any of the city staff has to bring before the council? No? Okay. Jamie, anything more for this evening? Barb? Jay? Dan?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Marty? Ron?
I was just going to say that last Wednesday, we had Dave Karen here in Detroit Lakes and also another towns here in Becker County, and I just want to say thank you to all the volunteers, especially all the high school students, teaching staff, and also for the public work employees that did a lot of hard work that day in helping clean up our city to help us get ready for the summer season.
Good stuff. You bet. Madeline, anything?
No.
Bruce?
I'm thirsty.
Okay. The business of this council has come to a conclusion and the meeting is adjourned.